Week 8 of Dana White's Contender Series is this weekend. I'm going to give you a prediction and breakdown of all 5 fights on the card, starting with Vinicius Oliveira versus Victor Hugo Madrigal. I am going to go with Vinicius Oliveira in this matchup. I think he's the younger fighter. He's going to go out there and pressure him. I think he's going to get the first round finish. He's a very heavy favorite in this matchup. I don't see Victor Hugo Madrigal dealing with the pressure quite well in this one, and I think he just ends up getting the finish by TKO in the first. Madrigal, not specifically talking about him, but for bantamweight, 33 years of age is quite old. I think you start to see guys start to fall off, at least in the top 15, top 5 of that division, like outside of this matchup completely. I started to notice that bantamweight, when you start to reach like a certain age, 33, 34, it is such a deep division and such a really big division competition-wise, where it's just because it is so deep, you have these guys constantly fighting for the top spot. And I think if you're not on your A game, if you just have like that physical skill, just slight speed disadvantage, I think you're kind of done for in that division. You can fall quite a bit, like you saw TJ Dillashaw, although he did start to deal with injuries, which is a pretty big factor as you do get older, of course, with a lot of these fighters. But at bantamweight, just the speed is a really big difference there. And I thought he lost to Corey Sandhagen, and he obviously lost to Aljamain Sterling. But even Aljamain Sterling, 34 years of age, although he's not a big stand-up fighter, you do start to see some of these guys slow down a little bit more. Dominic Cruz started to slow down, even though his career was kind of iffy because he retired quite a bit, but it's a little bit different there. But once you see these guys get a little bit older, see a lot of these younger guys start to come up because the big speed advantage, power difference, like a lot of these physical skills that you see not lacking in some of these upper divisions. Not saying that bantamweight's lacking any skills, but just the physical traits. Like you have a Volkanovski who's 35, who's still up there, maintaining his top spot there. Adesanya has been relatively decent at 35 years of age. I know he's just lost a couple times. Usman at 34, 33 was pretty solid there as well. Like just naming a couple fighters in general, John Jones is doing good at heavyweight so far. So, I mean, it's just how it is for a bantamweight. It's just a really big division competition-wise, and I don't think Madrigal, who is an elite fighter at all, or even like a top 15 fighter in UFC, top 20, top 30, I don't think age is going to really help him in this one, especially in a pretty competitive bantamweight division across all companies in general. So I am going to go with Oliveira on this one. First round finish by TKO. Up the card, we have Ernesta Kareckaite versus Carli Judice. I am going to go with Carli Judice in this matchup. I think her punches, her striking is a lot better than Kareckaite in this one. I mean, I was just watching some of these fights, and Ernesta Kareckaite, I think she's going to be taller in this one. She looks really big. Like her waist is pretty skinny, but she's just very lengthy. Like her torso up is just very, very lengthy, and she just seems like a very long fighter. But I think skill wise, who has the better punches, who throws the better kicks, who throws the better combinations, I think Carli Judice does. Maybe someone that throws a little bit more pop in their shots is probably Ernesta. I think so, but I mean, I'm just going to be completely honest. Judice just seems like she's a little bit more honed in as a fighter. She actually looks better than at least some women's fighters. She doesn't have pop in her shots, which might be a little bit of a disadvantage to her career as she moves on, but because she does kind of throw some tapping strikes, but she does set up her combinations quite well. I think she can do really good pressuring here in this matchup. Although Ernesta Kareckaite will be the taller fighter from what I see, at least from when they fight. Who knows? Because Carli Judice, I think, had from what I saw, it was like a cage side camera or whatever. So I don't know exactly how tall they will be matching up and what the reach is necessarily going to look like. But Carli Judice, I should think she's going to be better. I think she's more skilled on the feet. Who knows? Anything can happen here. But I do like what I see from Judice in her fight. She does look like she has the potential to be a little bit better than some of these women's fighters who don't have that much skill on the feet, who just look really sloppy, kind of like what Kareckaite kind of looks like. But I think Judice is pretty clean on the feet, or at least from what I see for a 24-year-old women's MMA fighter, which I really like. So 68% of Tapology is picking Judice in this one, 66% by decision. I think that's probably about right here. I don't see her finishing Kareckaite in this one. She doesn't really have crazy power in her hands, even though she does have a lot of finishes. I don't see her finishing some of these ladies. A lot of her finishes, although they aren't against the best competition, they're mostly just a lot of output, and these fighters are just making kind of business decisions in their brain, do I want to keep taking some of this damage? I'll just end up quitting or whatever. So I am going to go with Carli Judice by decision in this one. I think she just completely outstrikes Kareckaite on the feet, throws really good combinations. maybe you see a couple Leon setups there where she goes 1-2 and then lead head kick. So let's move on. Up the card, we have Danny Silva versus Angel Pacheco. I am going to go with Danny Silva in this matchup. From what I saw from Angel Pacheco's last matchup, he did fight Vilson Nigger. Oh my gosh, I probably should have said this one. Nijroni, I think is how you say it, who kind of looks like, weirdly enough, Volkanovski and Merab. Like face-wise, he looks like how I'd imagine Volkanovski and Merab like combined, weirdly enough. But in that matchup, he was able to counter-strike really well against Pacheco. And I noticed that in Danny Silva's last matchup, who fought Ortega, was Alex Valentino Ortega, who threw a lot at him. Like, I don't know what he's necessarily doing. He's a very sloppy fighter, but just had a lot of output. And Danny Silva was able to keep calm, stay back a little bit more, and pretty much be a little bit more calculated with his strikes, time some of these counters, and landed really good shots. And he destroyed Ortega in that one. I think he got like his back taken for like a minute in that one, ended up shoving him off of him and then finishing him in that first round. But Pacheco ended up getting caught in that fight against Injuroni, is how I'll say his name. But I think Dana Silva can basically just sit there, be the patient guy. Pacheco's going to go forward and look for counters, and I think Pacheco can end up getting caught maybe in this first or second round and end up getting finished here. I think Silva can definitely do that in this matchup. 86% pick by Tapology, 70% by decision, 20% by TKO KO. I don't know. Pacheco got caught in his last matchup. We'll see how this one goes. I do like the finishing ability of Silva in like the second or third round for this one. So I am going to go with Silva I'll go second round TKO. I think he ends up catching Pacheco and finishing him off in that round, in the second round. I'll say second round. 26 years of age as well, so he will be the younger fighter. 31 years of age for Pacheco. So we'll see how this one goes. But I'm going to go with Silva by second round TKO. Up the card, we have Alexander Soldatkin versus Mario Piazzon. I couldn't find any tape for Piazzon for this matchup. I'm going to be completely honest. And he also has a fight that says record ineligible MMA. So I don't know what necessarily happened here. I have no idea, but I tried to find any of these fights. Demo fight in the past, when they did have some fighters on these cards, have been hard to find fights from. So I'm not surprised that this was the case, but I couldn't find any fights of his. So I don't know what he'll necessarily look like. It looks like he has a lot of KOs on his record, but from what I've seen from Alexander Soldatkin, he's pretty solid on the feet, pretty solid on the ground, did really well against a guy in Benjamin Sahik, where he got injured. Not Soldatkin, of course, but where his opponent got injured on the ground, but he was throwing a lot of grappling positions on him. He did get like his back taken at some point. I think it was like the second round or something like that, and he was able to get out of it. So he was able to grapple, did pretty well in that fight. And from what I've seen, he does look kind of athletic, especially for heavyweight. I think he'll look pretty good in this matchup. I don't know what Mario Piazzon looks, but from this picture, he does look a little bit bigger. So I don't know. We'll see how this matchup goes. I think Soldatkin will basically just get the finish here, is how I'll say it. Maybe he takes him down and just grounds and pounds him a little bit more. Again, I haven't seen much from Mario Piazzon at all, so I have no idea how this one will necessarily go. But just from an athleticism standpoint, from what I've seen from Soldatkin, I'm just going to assume that if this guy doesn't have any tape on him and he has like these weird Tapology things where it's an ineligible record or whatever, I think I'm just going to side with Soldatkin in this one. I don't know how the UFC got Piazzon in this one. Maybe I think he trains with Jelton Almeida, right, or something like that. So maybe he like recommended him, and they're like, all right, well, we'll do this, or maybe he's a training partner and he's there, and they need to sign someone or whatever. But I don't know how the UFC found this guy at all. So I am going to go Soldatkin by finish, probably first round. Again, he looks super athletic, especially for a heavyweight. I think he gets this one done. The card, we have Danny Barlow versus Raheam Forrest. I am going to go Raheam Forrest in this matchup, but this could be very interesting if it does stay on the feet, because Raheam Forrest is a very good wrestler, and we have seen some faulty takedown defense from Danny Barlow in this matchup. But on the feet, I think things could get a lot more interesting. We know at Dana White's Contender Series, IQ is a very big problem in Dana White's Contender Series. Guys that have great wrestling don't normally use it and end up getting KO'd or whatever, so that could definitely be a possibility in this matchup. You never really know with some of these Contender Series fights. But Raheam Forrest, good prospect. Danny Barlow, really good prospect as well. But Raheam Forrest, 3 fights ago, beat Colin Lubbers. I think it was for the vacant welterweight championship. I might be a little bit wrong there, but he won by split decision. I believe Colin Lubbers does train, or at least is a main training partner with Colby Covington. I think Colby even shouted him out like a few days ago, so good win to have there. Lost to Charles Radke, who's now in the UFC, I think as of, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Won his fight there, I think won by like submission or whatever. Beat Treston Vines by KO, I think relatively early, like within 20 seconds. Knocked a dude out on his feet, pretty much like completely out cold, and then he just ended up tipping over and getting KO'd. So very brutal KO there. But Danny Barlow in his last fight beat Jarius Gill with a very, very brutal KO. I mean, this dude is really, really good on the feet. Left hand to God is his nickname. And Rambo is Raheem Forrest's nickname. So this is a great nickname fight. I'm going to be honest. Left hand to God is an incredible nickname. And his left hand is actually insane. And his hand speed is really good. He does a really good job of avoiding shots. He does roll punches quite well. And he when he does move out of the way of these shots, he does return quite well. And it's pretty good striking, at least recently from what we've seen. He's 28 years of age as well. So he's pretty young, 80 inches of reach. Really good reach, but the X factor here for Forrest in this matchup is his wrestling, and Barlow does not have the best takedown defense. So that'll definitely be what a lot of people will be looking for in this matchup, and that's probably why this matchup is quite 50-50, because Barlow is really good on the feet, and I think he will be better on the feet. But what does the takedown threat do in this matchup? Like, if Barlow's looking to defend takedowns, that opens quite a bit up for Forrest in the offense. And if he does pressure, he does like try to be aggressive, maybe he can find some openings on the feet and end up KOing Barlow. If this does stay on the feet, I'm expecting someone to get KO'd. Raheem Forrest is 26 years of age, so maybe he goes out there on short notice thinking like, I'm just going to go out there and KO this guy. I'm still pretty young. I can come back eventually. Or Danny Barlow looking to defend the takedowns quite well and make this a pretty interesting fight. So we'll see what happens in this one. I am going to go with Raheem Forrest. I think the wrestling is kind of a really big X factor in this one. And I think the wrestling threat eventually after he does take him down will be pretty big. We'll get Danny Barlow working, get him a little bit tired, and I think he can end up getting a finish in the second or third round. But again, Danny Barlow could very well win this fight, and I think the odds are pretty spot on here. Plus 100, minus 120. I think those are some really good odds for this one. I'm not too confident on either one of the guys. Again, I'm just leaning more Raheem Forrest in this matchup, but I am really looking forward to this fight quite a bit. Barlow, 56% picked by Tapology, 72% by KO, 44% picked for Forrest, 62% by KO. So a lot of these guys think one of these guys are going to get KO'd. I can see it end up going to a decision if it is Raheem Forrest out wrestling him, just making this one a little boring fight. But this is Dana White's Contender Series fight. They're urged to get finishes here. So I am going to go Raheem Forrest by like a second round finish. I think the takedown threat's going to be a little bit too much as this fight goes on. I think he might tire out Danny Barlow quite a bit. But again, Danny Barlow could go out there defending the takedowns, or maybe he catches Raheem Forrest coming in and Raheem Forrest like shoots a very sloppy takedown and he just ends up getting finished. So that could be a 100% real possibility here. So I think either one of these guys can win. I'm really looking forward to it again. Let me know what you guys think about this matchup down below. Who do you guys have winning? And I'll see you guys next time.